Hello, everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Sekani, a podcast for people in their 20s who are trying to figure out life and not get lost along the way. Today's guest is Warren Williams, creator of Energetic Alchemy and the Alpha Alignment System. Warren helps high performance leaders, especially those with ADHD and other forms of neurodivergence, move from overwhelm and constant hustle to clarity, focus, and sustainable success. His work combines leadership, nervous system regulation, and personal growth to help people lead from a place of purpose instead of pressure. Warren, welcome to Conversations with Sekani. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. Okay, so Warren, take us back basically to your 20s, right? Or should I say when you were a kid, basically. So, what was life like for you, and what were the experiences that shaped who you are today?
I mean, life was, good. It was what was really different that shaped me into what I do now was I started from the age of 6 or 7 really focusing on martial arts, which was my entry into the world of what people would call personal growth. So I studied martial arts, and at the same time, I really got into reading a lot of comics, and that really inspired me to see larger than life people that had high responsibility and high powers. And like even a character such as Spider-Man, he has a very powerful phrase that a lot of people use that relate to everything, which is with great power comes great responsibility. And so
Mm,
those are some of the things that kind of shaped the direction that I was going in, which was self-development. And then I got into a spiritual mystery school for about 10 years, studying esoteric spirituality. And I studied the ancient languages, Hurric and Syriac, which is like what people call Arabic and Hebrew. I studied
mm,
those languages, and I just started to dive into all the text, the original textbooks, the cuneiform tablets, like everything you can think of. That's all the ancient civilizations. Started studying all of that, and martial arts and esoteric stuff. And then I got deep into nutrition, so I started to study a lot about real nutrition, and I've studied with a lot of people. I've studied all over the world. And so all of that started from when I was like, 14, 15, 16, really just
mm.
focusing on developing. And that's kind of where I'm at.
Wow. Ooh, okay. So one can say you had an amazing childhood, basically, because you were learning literally, and I believe that there were challenges, right? Did you ever feel like you were, wired differently from, the people around you?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, especially if you're getting into this sort of work, most people growing up are more interested in partying and that
Mm.
sort of stuff. So yeah, there was definitely a difference, but I embraced the difference. And my mum always supported whatever choices I made, which is really good. And
Wow.
single parent mum, and she was like superhuman. So that was helpful. And then I had a great community of people around me that were in the same sort of work. Like when I started martial arts, one of my school friends started with me, so that was helpful. And when I started to
Mm.
get into the spiritual stuff, one of my childhood friends was going on a path with me as well. So even though there were people outside that thought it was strange, there were people that were close to me that were doing the same sort of thing anyway. So that was fine. Um, but regards to challenges outside of that, I'd say physical challenges. Like there was a period of time when I injured myself and I was on crutches for 1.5 years. And that was a
Mm.
challenging time because, I was in martial arts at the time. And so a lot of my identity was around physicality and movement. And I couldn't really
Mm.
move because I was in crutches. So that was a good point to learn a lot about yourself. And
Mm.
so, like just like everybody, we all go through challenges in life. So it's just what you do with those challenges. Do you see it as an obstacle or an opportunity? And that's what I always say to people. Every challenge in life is an opportunity for growth. But if you don't see it that way, then you're going to say God or the universe or something has punished you, and you don't learn the lesson. And so then you go through life being bitter, and then you start blaming everyone except yourself, and you don't take
Mm.
responsibility. And if you don't do that, you don't learn.
Mm. Wow. Oh, all right. So, like you said, every challenge is an opportunity. Wow. All right. Thank you for that wonderful one, Warren. And, if I could ask, right, if you could, sit down with your 20 something year old self, what would you have given? What advice would you have given to him?
I would just say that the something I always share with people, which is growth isn't about what you learn, it's about what you learn to let go of. So,
Mm,
I would just say to him, everything that you think you know, you will be challenged by it, and it will only be to help you to grow. So, no matter what you go through in life, always realize that on the other side of that is a level of growth. So just stay on the path. And I'm so disciplined anyway, so I would have just done that anyway.
mhm.
Um,
Wow. All right. Okay. So, it takes a lot to be disciplined. I see disciplined people as like a demigod. I don't know if I should use that word right,
Definitely
because
not.
it takes a lot of growth to, just be a disciplined person. So
Okay.
yes, right. I would say thank you for sharing that wonderful one with us. Now, I want us to talk about your journey, right, and what you're doing today. So
hmm
first of all, what led you to create Energetic Alchemy?
Yeah, so just the word itself is kind of explains it. I'll talk about how I got to that point in a sec. But energetic alchemy, everything in this world is based on energy, vibration,
Mm,
frequency, and alchemy just means to transition. Transformation from one state to the next, and we're always transforming or we're ignoring. And so that's why, I call it energetic alchemy, moving the energy that we already are into something greater. But in terms of how I got to this point, like I said, the martial arts, I studied kinesiology, which is the study of movement. I studied
mm,
nutrition, studied energetics, and so all of those things came about when I was focused on one thing, such as movement, working with clients, and only able to get them to a certain point, and then realizing there was something that I was lacking, and that's when I moved into, okay, let me study nutrition. Studied
mm,
nutrition, got them to a certain point, and go, okay, there's a block that I can get them further with. Okay, let me study energetics. And so every obstacle was an opportunity for me to learn something more to my skills so that I could actually get the best results for people. And, there's a lot of people today that use the word holistic, and they use it massively incorrectly because it's a buzzword and everybody throws that in now. But the word holistic really means whole body health. And if you're not doing
mm,
every facet, you're not holistic. And not being holistic isn't evil or bad. It's just you shouldn't use that term. So, as an example, you can't call yourself a holistic acupuncturist. I mean, you can, but you shouldn't. Because if you just do acupuncture, you're not working on every facet, you're working on
mm.
acupuncture and the meridian lines. If
Wow.
you can't call yourself a holistic dentist because you're only working on the jaw or the teeth. You're not working on nutrition. You're not working on movement. So many people throw this word in, and it's just wrong. And it's just giving people a false sense of security when it comes to that. So I worked on all the facets, and then found blocks, and then tried to work on more things. I'm always trying to find the blind spots, which is something I talk about a lot. Is people's blind spots, and we all have. I have them.
Mm,
We all have blind spots, but it's being brave enough and bold enough to lean into those blind spots. So something I was saying yesterday, um, which is about blind spots, which is a saying that I heard: "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek."
mm,
And so many people are afraid. They're afraid to, find out what things aren't working for them because they just don't want to judge themselves or feel any worse. But that protection is actually stopping an opportunity to grow. It's like an athlete who keeps getting second place or third place, but never gets to gold. But they don't want to know what they're doing wrong. And so they only ever stayed second or third. Whereas if they were brave enough, they'd say to their trainer or coach, okay, what's the one thing I'm really messing up? And it might be your sleep, or you're not disciplined when it comes to nutrition or something. And that one thing may hurt them, but it will allow them to get to number one. So it's just life is about, leaning into the blind spots, uncovering them, and then trying to grow from that.
Hmm. Wow. Okay. What stood out for me, it was when you said the cave you fear to enter
Mm,
holds the treasure that you seek.
yeah.
Wow. That one is amazing. I'm definitely telling my next guest. I mean, Warren said. All right. Okay. So, another thing is that many young people today, they feel so overwhelmed, right? Trying
Mm.
to keep up with the lifestyle, basically. So why do you even think this is?
Yeah, there's a lot of, I call it distortion. Some people just refer to it as distractions. And,
Mm,
the faster this world moves with, 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, the more distraction there is. There's 24-hour TV. And the attention spans of people, this has been proven by science that, the attention spans of people is getting less and less. Now they're comparing it to the attention of a fish, and fishes retain memory for 5 seconds. So they're actually comparing that to humans now, where they have a 5-second attention span. So with everything getting shorter, we now have reels, we have YouTube shorts. People are getting, I was saying this to my nephew the other day, stop just watching YouTube shorts. He used to watch Netflix and watch longer series, and now he just watches 20, 30 seconds after 20, 30 seconds after 20, 30 seconds. And I said to him, look, you're going to find it so hard to watch a movie because you're used to watching these 30-second hits. And that's what's happening today. The children of today are getting hit by so many dopamines, so much oxytocin that all they focus on is stimulation, not education. And so, because of that, their brains are getting used to very short stimulation. And so that's why, I know you're probably going to ask me about the ADHD stuff later, but that's why things like ADHD, ADD, and all these
mm,
neurodivergent things are happening now. They didn't happen 20, 30 years ago, they're happening now. And so
mm,
it's because of the constant distraction and the attention from these short form advertisements and videos that it's actually in training people to have very short-term memory. That's one of the main things. That and then the news. The news is always. I don't watch the news. I haven't watched the news in maybe 15 years. The news is just constantly saturating people with negativity. If you ever watch the news,
mm,
75%, maybe more of the news is just something negative. Someone died,
mm,
this person got raped, that person got murdered. And it's like, how does that help? I say to people, why does that help you? Well, I just need to be informed. How, okay, now that you know 75 people died today, how does it help you work tomorrow? It doesn't. So why are you watching? I just need to be informed. I'm like, you don't get it. Like, if you speak to millionaires and billionaires, they will tell you they don't watch the news. They may watch financial news. That's completely different. They
mm,
may watch the markets, but they're not sitting down watching how many people died in every single country and how many planes crashed because they know that information doesn't serve them. So those are the
mm.
things that, create the distractions that affect, the youth of today.
Wow. Ooh. All right. Like you said, distraction. And this just reminded me of a friend I have, right? That is so fixated on the news. Like first thing in the morning,
Mm.
you've gone online to, search what is currently happening in the country. I feel
Yeah.
like it has so much bad energy, right? Because it could literally ruin your day
Mm. Yeah,
throughout, right?
exactly.
Like, mm,
That's exactly the point. You give away your power at the start of the day. So, and then some people even say, "Well, what's the point? What's the point of me getting a job?" Or
right.
it's like if you're watching the news and you're seeing what's going on with Iraq or Iran or Russia or Ukraine or
Mm,
wherever is going on. It's like, how does that motivate? Oh, people are dying. Oh, I can't wait to get up and go to work. It just it
mm.
doesn't make sense. So I don't watch these things. I'm aware that those things are happening, but unless you're gonna go and set up a charity, unless you're gonna fly over there and help people, it's like you don't. Why do you need to just know it's happening? What or is there something you're specifically going to do about it? So the best thing, and it doesn't mean those things aren't important, it just means what does that do for your state of being to know that those things are happening? The best way to help the world is to help yourself first, because if you can help yourself grow, then you can help people by being that person who's stable. But if you're erratic and fearful and worried, you can't help people in that state. You can only help people from a state of regulation. So, the help, as I say, the helping hand you're looking for is at the end of your own arm. Work on yourself
Mm.
first. Build your tunnel, build your business.
Wow. Ooh, all right. So
Contribute.
I'd like to say, right.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Mhm.
So once you do that,
Mm.
then you can seek to help others from a place of reserves. Once you have the reserves and the capacity to do that.
Mm. Wow. Oh, okay. I would say I'm learning a lot actually. I'm learning a lot. And I just remembered what you said earlier, right? About the word holistic. You
Mm,
said most people they have a niche, right? And then they put the word holistic, like you said, holistic dentist. It doesn't
mm.
work that way. So I was curious, like when you mean holistic, does it mean, the physical health, mental health, spiritual health? Like, are those what you call the facets of
Yeah,
holistic health, basically?
yeah, yeah, correct. Yeah, it's exactly what you said. It's so the body moves into what we call homeostasis. And
Mm,
homeostasis is the state of equilibrium or balance. But the body can only be balanced if all facets of the body are balanced. No one system is more important than the other. But depending on the
mm,
field of practice, somebody will focus on that particular thing, such as if you have a knee issue and you go to a doctor, that doctor will tell you you need surgery, or should I say, the doctor will
mm,
tell you you need medicine. And if you go to a surgeon, the surgeon will say you need surgery. And if you go to a physiotherapist, they'll say you need physiotherapy. Everybody's working from one lens. But if you are truly
mm,
holistic, you would be able to assess the knee from all points of view and determine the right course of action rather than, because I'm a surgeon, you're going to do surgery. That's a very narrow point of view. So if somebody, because I work holistically, and again, I'm not the only one that works holistically, but if someone comes to me, as an example, someone came to me and they had low back pain, and they assumed because it's physical pain that it's coming from physical muscles. And when I assessed them, what we actually discovered was that the reason why they had low back pain is something called visceral somatic reflexes. It basically means the organs in the body don't have pain receptors. And what they do,
mm,
they borrow their pain receptors from the muscles. So basically, this person's liver was overrun because they were drinking too much coffee. And because their liver was overrun, their liver would dump its stimulation into the low back. And so the low back would reflect pain, but it was coming from the liver. And so
mm,
if you went and saw a massage therapist, you're not going to heal the liver through massage. You're going to have to heal the liver through nutrition. And so we got to
mm,
cut back on the caffeine and to take specific um, supplements and herbs, and her liver was able to detoxify, and the back pain went because it wasn't the back, it was the liver. That's when you can
mm,
work holistically rather than where does it hurt? Let me work from a muscle point of view. And that's what a lot of people aren't doing. So, yeah, holistic is the ability to see all things.
mm. Wow. All right. Okay, now I understand. So another thing is, a lot of people they can't tell the difference between working hard and simply burning themselves out,
Mm.
right? So how can one tell the difference between, working hard and burnout, basically?
Yeah. So we have we have seven brainwave states, but
Mhm.
for what we're talking about, the main is three particular ones. These will govern how hard somebody is truly working and whether they are working beyond their physical capacity. So the three brainwave states that are more relative to this is delta. Delta is the brainwave
Mm,
state you go into to be able to sleep. So delta is between zero point 0.5 and 3 hertz. That means how fast your brain's oscillating per second. And you have to be very calm to get into a deep, restful sleep. Then the next brainwave state, which is the one that most people in the Western world are in, like
Mm.
90% of the Western world are in this brainwave state all the time, is called beta. And beta is a lot faster. It's 13 to 30 hertz per second. That is a state that we need, but the problem is people are in it all the time. So it's the state of productivity, of output, of doing. And if you're in that and you get to the higher level of that brainwave state, your nervous system gets dysregulated. And when it gets dysregulated, your body has to tap into reserves such as your adrenaline to keep you going because you're using up way too much cortisol, and your body then has to look for reserves and it taxes the physical body for the reserves. That's where you get to the point of burnout because you're using your reserves. Then the third brainwave state that relates to what we're talking about is the alpha brainwave state. That's between 8 and 12, so slower than beta, but faster than delta because you can't sleep when you're in that state. But the alpha brainwave state is rest, recovery, intuition, and insight. Basically, it's the state that children naturally live in. And, play, it's a very playful, it's flow, what people call the flow state. So when you're able to tap into alpha and then go back into beta, so you're going from rest to action throughout the day, then you work hard, but not as hard as people think, because you have constant reserves and your body is constantly recycling itself, so you actually get recovery. And then burnout is when somebody stays in beta constantly, using up adrenaline, having hardly any reserves, and then their body crashes. That's the difference between those. And the people that are in beta, they can't get into deep sleep because their mind is working so fast that the body thinks that's normal. But it's not normal, it's just common. And so most people are sick because of how they think, and how they think affects how they feel because of the physiology. So really, people have to learn how to regulate their nervous system. And I know the question would be, how do we regulate our nervous system? Well, one of the ways we do
Mm.
that is we spend, 3 to 5 minutes every 2 hours doing something mindful, such as breath work or stretching or going for a walk or Tai Chi or rebounding, like jumping on a trampoline sort of thing, because it actually pumps the body and makes it move. So anything like that helps our body reset. And once we reset, then we can go back into work. But most people don't do that. They just work until they get tired.
Well, okay. You said in every 2 hours using 3 to 5 minutes doing something mindful, basically. All
Yeah.
right, I took note of that one actually. So another thing is, you work with many neurodivergent leaders, right? So how can ADHD become a strength rather than a limitation?
Yeah. So ADHD, first of all, from my perspective, it's not a disease, and most people think it is. It's just
Mm.
dysregulation of the nervous system, because the mind's primary vehicle of information is the nervous system. We get feedback from the body, and then the mind interprets it. And so, if the body is in dysregulation, the mind goes into fragmentation, and fragmentation is ADHD. So that's the first thing. So, in terms of how ADHD can be something good rather than bad, is you become hyper focused. The problem is people stay in hyper focus and they can't unwind. So it is a strength if you can become hyper focused through the ADHD state, because it makes you go really high into beta, and that way you can really focus on tasks. You become very, very fine tuned. You zone in very well. So that's how it's really a strength. So a lot of people with ADHD are very, very good at doing, and forgetting everything around them and just zeroing in on one thing. Whereas a problem is, like I said, that's all they do, and they burn themselves out doing that. So they're highly strung, they're overstimulated all the time. So if they can see it as a strength so that they can be productive and then learn to unwind and spend those moments we spoke about, going into alpha, then they'll see it purely as a strength because they'll be far more regulated. What will happen is they intentionally go into the ADHD trait for productivity and then intentionally exit it for recovery. That's all they have to do. It's just not they have to get rid of it. They just learn how to, step in and step out of it. And then they'll be super productive without the burnout.
Wow. Oh, all right. Okay. So thank you. I think you're giving us really, really, and you're sharing powerful insights, honestly. And this reminded me of a guest I spoke with that was also a neurodivergent leader,
Hmm.
right? So he said when you tell a neurodivergent person not to work, it's almost like you're telling them to kill themselves, right? Because I mean, they were made for this. They love to work.
Yeah.
So knowing that they could actually turn off that side, not really turn off, like you said, come out of it and
Mhm.
also come back into it. At least that's feasible, right? Than telling them, you know what, stop working, don't work, just uh abandon or just leave whatever it is you're doing. Right.
Mm.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
at least
Yeah, exactly. Their personality is such that when you tell them
mm,
psychologically to stop something, they will resist. But if your body, the body never lies. So
right.
if like in spite of yourself, if you do specific things to regulate the nervous system, you'll just become that in spite of yourself. So you don't need to try to convince someone. You just need to let them experience because in this world, people worship the mind when they really should be worshiping the body because the body is what keeps the score. And there's a very famous book
Mm.
on that called The Body Keeps the Score.
The body skip the score, yes. I
Yeah.
remember the book actually.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you, Warren. And I would like for us to talk on what you're doing today, right? But before we do, can
Mhm.
you explain what does so aligned leadership? What does it mean to you?
Yeah. So soul aligned leadership. So many people in the Western world are, including the women, are focused on very masculine ways of working, which is all about effort, pushing, yang. And yang is very masculine, whereas yin is very
Mm,
feminine. And so many women today, because of the pressure from men, almost have to become men in the boardroom in meetings. And so they're losing their sense of femininity because
mm,
the Western world is very masculine. And so a lot of these women think they have to be men to be successful. And they have had to do that, but they're copying a type of work that men shouldn't even be doing. So we're in this very masculine, dominant way of consumption and yang and force, where what really should happen is so a lot of these people, they become successful, but at what cost? The cost is to
mm,
themselves, to their family, and to their relationships. And a lot of these women, I've spoke to a lot of them, they're not, and there's nothing wrong with a woman not wanting to have children, but the reason for a lot of these women that I've spoken to that don't want to have children is because they're too busy conquering the world.
mm,
That's not maternal. So a lot of these women and a lot of these men have just abandoned their inner cues, their inner intelligence, because they have to conquer the world. That's not soul aligned. And so they sacrifice their who is soul aligned, which is to build our life first and then build our business around our life. And the way that looks is you you have a morning ritual that is set up for the day so that you can be fully present. And then from there, you build into your schedule rest, recovery, nutrition, intuition. And then when you do that, then you build your life, or sorry, build your business around your life. You're actually putting yourself first. And because you're putting yourself first,
mm,
you actually have capacity. And when you have capacity, that means you
yeah,
can no longer need to be in stress to work. You can be in flow. And when you're in flow, that means you're listening to your soul. You're anchoring into the alpha brainwave state. And when you anchor into alpha, it allows you to tap into intuition. And when you tap into intuition, You lead from your soul, you lead from intuition, and you lead from the feminine aspects of yourself. You make decisions that are in alignment to what you feel rather than what the market says. And when you do that, do things that way, that's soul aligned work. And so what I've seen is a lot of people that start to trust their inner cues, their inner dialogue, they make far better decisions because they make decisions without force. And some humans, they make a decision and then they say, oh, I knew I shouldn't have done that. That's their soul telling them, yeah, you shouldn't have done that. So if you can actually stay connected to your soul, you make these big decisions because the soul's never wrong. The soul is an aspect of God. It's never wrong. It's just we don't trust it because we're in a world where it's just force, force, force. So that's what soul aligned leadership is.
Wow. All right. So thank you, Warren. And also, like you said, so aligned leadership. Another guest told me, balanced achiever, right? Because a whole lot of people want to be, there's this word they use, a high achiever, right? So
Mm,
instead of becoming a high achiever, how about you become a balanced achiever?
mm,
Whereas, like you said, you could tap into the alpha brain wave, I think said theta or beta, I don't know which other one, but you could be able
mm,
to tap into each brain waves whenever it is that you like, right?
mm.
And just be able to balance your life, like have access to each of those brain waves. So
Yeah.
basically, it's better to work towards becoming a balanced achiever, or should I say, a soul aligned leader. That is
Mm.
better. It's better that way because you get to perform optimally, basically.
Yeah.
So
100.
exactly.
Yeah, basically exactly what you just said. It's I just wanted to share one other quick stat. You might have heard this before, but
Mm,
in the Western world, I always have to keep saying the Western world because it's only the Western world that is like this. That the average, so most heart attacks in the Western world take place
mm,
Monday morning at 8:30 a.m.
mm,
Most heart attacks in the world, and that's because people are stressing themselves out. Start of the week,
mm,
so that's when most heart attacks take place. It tells you people are not soul aligned, and if you take time, you'll actually have time, you know, and you bear to think more. And studies have shown that the more stressed you are, your cognitive ability drops by 15 to 20%. So your productivity drops. Imagine if your company is making 1 million a year and you drop 15 to 20%. Now you're making 200,000 less. Now, if you slowed down and worked within your reserves, you'd actually work less hours and actually perform better. Like if you were to read a book for 4 hours, you probably
mm,
forget the first 2 hours of what you read. So it's like, what's the point of reading for 4 hours? You might as well just read for an hour, retain what you read. And that's what people are doing. They're just pushing way beyond capacity and then wondering why they're burning out. It's just, this is a reverse system of how we should actually work.
Wow. Oh, all right. So thank you, Warren, for sharing amazing insights, literally, because I can say I've learned a whole lot actually. And finally, I'd like to ask, right, what impact do you hope your work will have on, next generation leaders?
The impact is, really it's to get people back into, people talk about work-life balance, and I rephrase that to work-life integration.
Mm,
And work-life balance is work and then have a life. It's like that doesn't make sense. We're not here to work. When they test people they've done these studies where people are, in their last month of their life, and they've asked them these questions. What is it that you have regrets about? And every single one of them that they've questioned, no one ever said, I wish I'd worked more. No one ever said that
mm,
before they transition. No one ever says that. They say, I wish I had been more honest. I wish I'd been more truthful
mm,
to myself. I wish I'd spent more time with my family and friends, the people that I love. Those are the things that people care more about. So, when we get to work-life integration, we realize that the work only provides the platform for us to live, not the other way around. And so my impact for people would be simply that, to have work-life integration. And to summarize it in this: be, do, have. Be is fully present, moment to moment, just like a
Mm.
child is. Do from that place, from being fully present. And if you can do from that place, the have shows up. And the have is all the things that you want to acquire: money, cars, houses, land, whatever it is. That shows up simply because you are being more importantly first. So be, do, have, that's the impact I want to have.
Mm. Well, okay. Be, do, have. Right. Noted. Okay, so yes, thank you, Warren. I think this has been really, really insightful. And thank you for, sharing wonderful story and your journey also with us today. And yeah, it brings me to the final segment of my podcast. I call it the rapid fire segment. You could either answer with a word or a phrase.
Hmm. Yep.
Starting now. So would you prefer the morning routine or evening routine?
Morning.
Okay. So, what is one book that's influenced your leadership?
Um, I know this is rapid. I've got to think. Um, I don't read books. I don't read books. I stopped reading books 15, 20 years ago. I go for my inner guidance.
Wow. Okay. Wow. All right. So, would you prefer coffee or tea?
I don't drink either.
Okay. So, you drink water.
Water.
Water. All right. So, what is one habit you never skip?
Morning routine. That's a non-negotiable. That sets up my day, the morning routine.
Okay. All right. And finally, in one word, what does leadership mean to you?
Sovereignty.
Hmm. Wow. All right. So yes, thank you, Warren. And before you go, where can, listeners get to learn more about you and also connect with you?
Yeah, my website, which is energeticalchemyos.com. On there is a free quiz. It takes 90 seconds. And
Hmm.
when you complete it, you'll know what stage you are in um, from stressed out to calibrated. And that's a really good test. People love doing that test because it gives them feedback as to where they are on their stress levels. There's also access through that to my free Telegram community. And then also there's access through that to my newsletter, so they can sign up to the newsletter and get information.
Hmm. All right. Wow. And I'm gonna put the link in the show notes so it's, easily accessible for listeners. Okay, I was gonna end this, but I just remembered something you said now, and I just want to, say something
Go
very
ahead.
quickly. All
Hmm.
right, so earlier you said you kept mentioning the Western world that all these things are mostly dominant there.
Hmm.
Personally, I don't think it's dominant there. It's also here, but it doesn't have a name, right? We do not really pay attention to these things, but it's here actually. I mean, it's seen. We see ADHD, a whole lot of these things are here, but we don't really pay much attention to it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I was just gonna quickly say that.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so yes, and to my listeners, I want to say thank you for tuning into Conversations with Sekani. If this episode sparked something in you, just as it did in me, make sure to share to someone who you think might need this, and also subscribe so you don't miss out on a new episode. Once again, thank you, Warren, for sharing beautiful insights with us today. Do have a wonderful day ahead of you.
Cool. Thank you.